They laughed at the blind waitress for spilling coffee, but the CEO's son saw what they didn't. The morning light filtered through the cafe windows like honey through gauze, turning the small corner diner into something almost sacred. Daniel Mercer sat in the back booth, the one with the cracked vinyl seat that nobody wanted, scrolling through emails he didn't care about on a phone that never stopped buzzing. At 34, he was the heir apparent to Mercer Industries, a company that built things he'd stopped trying to understand years ago. His father's empire, his eventual cage. He came to this diner every Tuesday morning because nobody here knew his name, because the coffee was mediocre and the toast was burnt, and because for 45 minutes he could pretend he was just another tired man in a wrinkled coat, invisible and wonderfully ordinary. The cafe hummed with the quiet rhythm of morning regulars, construction workers nursing black coffee, a retired couple sharing a newspaper, a young mother trying to convince a toddler that scrambled eggs were not, in fact, poison. And then there was the waitress. She moved through the tables with a careful grace, her white cane folded and tucked into her apron pocket, her fingertips trailing lightly along the counter's edge as she navigated the familiar geography of the small space. Her name tag read Elena, and Daniel had watched her work for 3 Tuesdays now, marveling at the quiet choreography of her movements, the way she counted steps, the way she listened for the scrape of chairs, the way she smiled at voices before faces. Today the cafe was fuller than usual. A group of businessmen had claimed the center tables, their voices loud with the particular confidence of men who had never been told no. They were discussing quarterly projections and golf handicaps and the waitress who was taking too long with their order. Daniel watched Elena approach their table with a tray of coffee cups, her steps measured and sure. She had done this 1,000 times. She knew this floor like she knew her own heartbeat. But someone had moved a chair. It caught her shin mid-stride, and the tray tilted. Coffee splashed across white shirts and silk ties, and the cafe fell into that particular silence that precedes cruelty. "Are you kidding me?" The loudest of the businessmen shot to his feet, coffee dripping from his sleeve. "What kind of—" He stopped, noticing her unfocused gaze, the way her hands searched the air for orientation. His lip curled. "Oh, wonderful. They've got a blind girl pouring coffee. That's just perfect. Is this some kind of charity case?" The other men laughed. It was an ugly sound, the kind that echoed. Elena's face flushed crimson, but she didn't cry. She simply knelt and began picking up the shattered cups, her fingers finding each piece of ceramic with practiced patience. "I'm so sorry," she said quietly. "I'll have fresh cups right out. No charge, of course. I'll pay for the dry. Cleaning myself, Don't bother." The man tossed his napkin onto the floor beside her. "We're leaving. I'll be sure to mention this place in my review." They swept out, still laughing, and the door chimed their exit like a small, indifferent bell. Daniel was already moving. He didn't think about it, didn't calculate the optics or consider what his father would say about a Mercer kneeling on a diner floor. He just knelt beside her, his hands finding the ceramic shards before her fingers could. "Careful," he said gently. "There's a sharp piece by your left hand." Elena froze. "You don't have to—" "I know." He kept gathering the broken pieces. "But that guy was a jerk, and you shouldn't have to clean up after jerks alone." She was quiet for a moment, listening to him work. "You come in every Tuesday," she finally said. "Back booth, black coffee, wheat toast, no butter. You always leave a 20 for a $4 check, and you never say more than 3 words to anyone." Daniel smiled, surprised. "You noticed all that?" "I notice everything." She turned toward his voice, and her smile was small but real. "I just can't see it." The diner owner, a weathered Greek man named Costa, appeared with a broom and a gentle hand on Elena's shoulder. "It's okay, Kukla. Happens to everyone. Go take your break." "I can't afford—" "You can. I insist." Costa helped her to her feet, shot Daniel a grateful nod, and guided Elena toward the small break room in the back. Daniel should have returned to his booth, to his emails, to his invisible, ordinary Tuesday. Instead, he found himself at the counter, ordering 2 cups of the terrible coffee. The break room was barely bigger than a closet, a folding table, 2 plastic chairs, and a window that looked out onto the alley where delivery trucks came and went. Elena sat with her hands wrapped around nothing, her shoulders carrying a weight that had nothing to do with spilled coffee. Daniel knocked on the doorframe. "Peace offering," he said, setting a cup in front of her. "It's on your right, about 3 inches from your hand." She reached for it without hesitation, her fingers finding the warmth. "You're the quiet one, Daniel. Costa told you?" "Costa tells me everything about the regulars. He thinks I should know who to trust." She took a sip, made a face. This coffee really is terrible. The worst I've ever had, Daniel agreed, sitting across from her. That's why I keep coming back. Elena laughed, a real laugh, surprised out of her, and something in Daniel's chest loosened. He couldn't remember the last time he'd made someone laugh like that. Genuine, unguarded. Why do you work here? He asked, if you don't mind me asking. Because Costa was the only one who'd hire me. She said it simply without bitterness. I used to work at a law firm, administrative assistant, good benefits, good salary, then the accident. She gestured vaguely at her eyes. Apparently, a blind woman is a liability, even when all she does is answer phones and file paperwork. That's illegal. That's complicated, she shrugged. I could have fought it, but I have a daughter, 7 years old. Fighting takes time and money I don't have. So, she spread her hands. Terrible coffee and $10 tips. Except when some rich jerk spills it all over himself and blames you. Except then. Her smile was sad at the edges. My daughter's name is Lily. She has my mother's eyes. Or so I'm told. I haven't seen them in 2 years, but every morning she describes her outfit to me, tells me what the sky looks like, brings me flowers from the neighbor's garden because she knows I can still smell them. Elena's voice softened. She's the reason I get up, the reason I keep going. She shouldn't have to grow up watching her mother give up. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his own mornings, the hollow ritual of showering and dressing, and showing up to meetings where people laughed at his jokes because of his last name, the gnawing emptiness that no amount of money could fill. She sounds extraordinary, he finally said. She is. Elena tilted her head, listening to something in his voice. You sound sad. I'm fine. No, you're not. It wasn't an accusation, just a fact, offered gently. You come here to disappear. I recognize the feeling. For a moment, Daniel couldn't speak. No one had ever said it out loud before. No one had ever seen it. But she had. Without eyes, she had seen him more clearly than anyone in his entire life. The weeks that followed unfurled like something Daniel hadn't known he was waiting for. He started coming to the diner more often, Wednesdays, then Fridays. Then, whenever he could escape the glass tower of his father's expectations. He learned that Elena had grown up in a small town in Oregon, that she'd lost her sight to a genetic condition that had been stealing her vision slowly since childhood, that she made the best chocolate chip cookies in the world and always burned the bottoms because she couldn't see when they were done. He met Lily on a rainy Saturday. She was 7 years old, with tangled brown hair and a gap-toothed smile that could power cities. She sat at the counter with her homework spread before her, kicking her feet against the stool, and when Daniel walked in, she looked up at him with eyes that were, indeed, extraordinary. You're the Tuesday man, she announced. Mama says you're kind. Daniel glanced at Elena behind the counter, who was smiling into the coffee she was pouring. Does she? She says kind people are rare, like four-leaf clovers, or shooting stars. Lily studied him with the unself-conscious intensity of childhood. Are you a shooting star? I think I'm more like a plain old rock. That's okay? Lily returned to her homework, satisfied. Rocks are useful too. You can build things with rocks. Daniel didn't plan to change Elena's life. He just kept showing up. He hired a lawyer, a good one, someone, who owed him a favor to look into her old firm. He didn't tell her. He just made some calls, asked some questions, and 6 weeks later, Elena received a settlement offer that made her hands shake when she read the Braille translation. I can't accept this, she told him, standing in the break room with the letter clutched against her chest. I didn't earn it. You earned every penny of it 2 years ago when they fired you for something you couldn't control. Daniel's voice was firm but gentle. This is just the world catching up. Costa gave her a raise, not because Daniel asked him to, but because Elena had become the heart of the diner. The regulars loved her, the tips had doubled, and somehow her presence made the terrible coffee taste slightly less terrible. And Daniel found himself building something he hadn't known he was missing. He taught Lily to play chess on Sunday afternoons, describing each piece by touch, laughing when she beat him for the first time. He read to Elena from books she missed, doing all the voices badly and making her laugh until she cried. He fixed the leak in their apartment's bathroom ceiling badly and had to call an actual plumber, and Elena teased him about it for weeks. Somewhere along the way, the emptiness began to fill. A year later, on a Tuesday morning soft with early spring light, Daniel walked into the diner to find Lily waiting for him at the counter with a crayon drawing clutched in her hands. I made this for you, she said, thrusting it toward him. It's our family. The drawing showed 3 figures, a tall one with messy hair, a medium one with a smile like sunshine, and a small one between them holding both their hands. "That's you," Lily pointed, "and that's Mama, and that's me." She looked up at him, suddenly uncertain. "Is that okay, that you're in our family?" Daniel looked at the drawing, at the three figures standing together, at the sun Lily had drawn above them, with rays that reached all the way to the edges of the paper. He thought about his father's empire, the glass towers and quarterly projections, the inheritance he'd never wanted, the future that had felt like a prison. He thought about Elena's hands finding his across a diner table, about her laughter, bright as bells, about the way she said his name like it meant something. "Yeah," he said, his voice thick. "That's okay." Elena appeared beside them, her hand finding his shoulder with that unerring accuracy that still amazed him. "Lily has something else to ask you." The little girl bounced on her stool. "Will you marry Mama? I already told her you should, and she said I had to ask you first because it's important." "Important," Elena corrected gently, her cheeks flushed. Daniel laughed, the kind of laugh that broke something open inside him, the kind that let light in. "I think," he said, kneeling down to Lily's level, "that's the best idea anyone's ever had." The wedding was small, the diner closed for the afternoon. Costa wept openly and made everyone eat too much pasticcio. And afterward, in the soft golden light of an ordinary Tuesday, Daniel sat in the back booth, the one with the cracked vinyl seat that nobody wanted, with his wife beside him and his daughter drawing pictures of the future on paper napkins. Elena leaned into him, her head on his shoulder. "You know what I saw that day?" she asked quietly. "When you knelt down to help me? You couldn't see anything. I saw everything," she smiled. "I heard it in your voice. The loneliness, the kindness, the hope that was almost afraid to hope." She found his hand and held it. "I saw a man who needed a family as much as we needed him." Across the diner, Lily was showing Costa her latest drawing, a shooting star and a rock, side by side. Daniel watched them, his family, his home. "You know," he said, "this coffee really is terrible." Elena laughed. "The worst. I think I'll keep coming back." "I think," she said, "you already have." Outside, the spring light poured through the windows like honey through gauze, turning the small corner diner into something sacred. And in the back booth, where an invisible man had once hidden from the world, a family sat together, seen, found, and finally home.